Only took the Wonder Kid 13 minutes. Shout out Mr. Ethan Nwaneri for bagging for Marseille. Serve your apprenticeship. You're the future of Arsenal Football Club. You know at some point we're going to have him, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Max Dowman, some other kids that we don't even know about to pattern up. Halen Demon, we don't need a reason. Big up Zerbi. Look after my boy, you know, because he needs to come back on crud. I've seen Saliba go along, come back and manoeuvre. I've seen the same for Smith Rowe. When we retain the Premier League, you're part of it. And you're going to get your medal this year. A dream debut from Ethan Nwaneri. 13 minutes is all it took in his first start, in his first game for his lone club, Marseille, for him to score his first goal for the football club. And it was a great finish. We're going to get into all of that. And as I said, this loan spell, in my opinion, is going to make too much sense. It's got shades of William Saliba at Marseille. Dream start to life over there in France for Nwaneri. He got 58 minutes. Let's have it right. He hasn't been exposed to that much football. Just a week or so ago, he's playing for Arsenal's under-21s. So 58 minutes is just about right before he probably felt cramped. Obviously, he scored a trademark Nwaneri finish. You know, if you invite him to dribble at you, you're going to be in problems. And that's what he's got to keep doing on top of other things. A hugely promising debut from our very own Haylender, aka Englishman. His goal was a terrific effort. He ran from the halfway line. He finished it with style in his first goal, just days after signing for Marseille and being thrown into the limelight. A good trust of faith by Roberto De Zerbi. Let's have it right. Marseille are third in Liga. They're fighting for a title. We all know Paris Saint-Germain are going to win the league, but they're up there with Lens, who they played and won 3-1. So that was a big game. They're competing at the top of the table. Their fixture calendar list is coming thick and fast. And obviously, people, they don't really care how good Nwaneri is or whatever his development. Can you make the difference, really? Marseille have a good crop of players, especially in the attacking rank. There's no time for complacency. And Nwaneri has started in the same vein when he got his first start for Arsenal, etc., bagging goals. But it's also a promising general 58 minutes. In my opinion, there's little things you could do better. He won his duels and things like that. Obviously, a player like Nwaneri, we're drawn to his technical ability, but his body positioning, when to play short and give and go, his heat map, playing in that little pocket, that inside right wingy / right centre mid kind of pocket is where you see Nwaneri being able to play and thrive. Obviously, versatility is a massive thing for footballers, and he's got that in abundance, and that's going to have to see him through, because you have to play in a number of roles, and I think he will be exposed to a number of roles with Roberto De Zerbi. So far so good, man. As I said, man, it was a dream debut for him. He showed his quality in tight spaces, his dribbling, his flicks. After coming off for Mason Greenwood, he came off to a standing ovation. You could see he enjoyed himself out there, and I don't want to jump the guns, but if he starts as he means to go on, Roberto De Zerbi will have an indispensable player. And for Arsenal, we have a great player for next season. Again, people, look at the heat map. He's playing in that right centre mid pocket. Obviously, he scored, but go and look at the heat map. He's receiving it off the defenders. He's getting it on the halfway line. That's the Odegaard role. For me, Nwaneri, technically gifted. He is a professional footballer. He is an Arsenal footballer. It's what you do off the ball. For me, with Nwaneri, it's more everything that's demanded of that role with De Zerbi, and obviously with the senior players at Arsenal. That's the only thing you've got to introduce. And for me, affect the game over 90 minutes. And that's not always scoring. Obviously, games like this where you scored on your debut, these are going to be the things that's going to get the headlines, rightly so. But there'll be some games where Marseille might lose 2-0. It might be 0-0, but Nwaneri had a good game. I think off the top of my head, he's had some great appearances for Arsenal. And obviously, at this stage in his career, I expect this. But Leicester away last season, he was a constant threat over 90 minutes. And actually, coming off the bench, I believe, for Martin Odegaard against Leeds in the early part of the Premier League, that's what I'm kind of talking about if you want reference. You've got the moment, you've got the finishing, you're capable of magic moments. It's just about marrying that as a footballer naturally. So, yeah, in his 58 minutes, he got a goal, had an 89% pass accuracy, had 100% successful take-ons, had 5 passes into the final third, completed 100% of his successful long balls. Obviously, there were some little isms and schisms he could do better, but considering he's been out in the cold, not really played a lot of football, not put a consistent run of games, I'll be more harsh on and scrutinize his performances as we mean to go on. I've said it before, people. Oh, yeah, he also won 4 of his 7 ground duels. I've said it before. I think this loan makes too much sense. I do think Nwaneri could have contributed to Arsenal Football Club this season, but the reality is what I think and what are happening is two very different things. I won't quite say you're developing out of the spotlight because people will be watching France, but you're out of the Arsenal spotlight. You're in a great innovative coaching system with Roberto De Zerbi, someone that's thrown you in at the deep end as well because you haven't played that much football. You're with a lot of great attackers. Even though he's a young player, the average age of that squad is 27. They're still in Europe. The average squad is 27. They're still in Europe at this moment in time. They're competing at the top end of the table. Marseille is one of the bigger clubs in France. There's a degree of expectation. The French league I think people don't give it its credit. It's very physical. That's why you see a lot of French nationals come to England and bang, and a lot of players that have played in France that might not necessarily be French bang. So I think there's so much that's going to work here for him, whether he's playing as a 10, playing right wing, playing in a hybrid system. Roberto De Zerbi is a tinkerman, and there's plenty of experience he could learn in those kind of conditions. So he's joining an experienced squad, where they're littered with talent. Also, there's players that have kind of gone through the path of Nwaneri. Look at a Gahiri, who's been a kind of wonder kid. You've obviously got Mr. MG, who's obviously was at Man United. You've got Timber's brother over there. You've got Aubameyang, who's been a shoulder to cry on for more experienced players. I think this makes too much sense for me, man. And you're playing in a system that is very fluid. Roberto De Zerbi shows that just because it's 3 at the back or 5 at the back even, doesn't mean that you're not going to play attacking football. He's being exposed, at least for the Lens game, to a 3-4-2-1 formation, which again, in terms of your development as a footballer, you could leave a club at any time. Managers can leave. You can't just be contingent on the system. He's got versatility. He's got ability. Now it's just about marrying all of these things together, and I think it's going to work for him, people. We know what he does. We know he's got a license to roam forward, get into space, get into the pockets, drive, and do what he thrives at in creating chaos, like you saw. I personally believe, owing to just being on the bench and being depreciating goods, he's probably became our most underrated sort of footballer. So just play to the form where we sit there and think, oh my gosh, why did we loan him out, people? Arsenal fans are used to him scoring. Arsenal fans are used to him finishing that. For me, at the end of this loan spell, I just want to see a player who is better than he was last year, a player that's got more minutes, looks a bit more mature, has a lot more confidence, has a lot more experience, and a lot more consistency. So he started well, but it's not where you start, it's where you finish. It was a dream debut, but as I said, they're competing at the top end of Liga. They're still in Europe. They're a club with big expectations where would they win? They're the best thing since sliced bread. They lose, they're horrible. So it's not just about what you can do today. It's what you can do tomorrow. You came through the baptism of fire greatly, and now it's a big test, people, because again, I do think people underappreciate Nwaneri. I mean, the man's made 34 Premier League appearances. You add that in with the cup games and literally the one appearance in Liga, he's still inexperienced, people. So yeah, man, I think he's got a lot going for him. He started well, but it's not where you start, it's where you finish. What you did in the game against Lens, where they won 3-1, is irrelevant. You've now got to recover because they play on Wednesday against Club Brugge, where they're going to have to keep their Champions League hopes alive with actually 3 points, really. And then obviously from Wednesday, you're playing on Saturday against Paris, and then you're playing in the French Cup last 16 against Rennes, also another big club. So this is what you need to do as a young player. Can you do it twice in a week? The goals will get the headlines, people, but it's about how he plays in all of his minutes across this loan spell. I will learn more when Marseille lose or when they draw, or when things go wrong with Nwaneri, then necessarily a dream debut, because that's how you mature. And for me as well, football mirrors life. This is an 18-year-old lad who's only known Arsenal. He's picked up himself and gone and lived in France. He has to learn a new language, the way of life away from the training ground, maybe has to spend more time alone than he would have been exposed to. These things in life, let alone football, help you grow. So long may it continue, Nwaneri. Lovely to see. What do you lot make of it? Smash the like button, all those good things. I'm out.